Okay, you have your Bibles. We are in Romans chapter 12, verse 1. We're not even going to pass out the Bibles today because there's only one verse, and we're going to show it to you up on the screen. And what we're going to be talking about today is a little bit about worship, because I think we focus on the wrong things when it comes to worship. For instance, a lot of times we get focused on worship. We start thinking about styles of worship. So some people think that worship is all about stained glass windows and hymn books and preachers in robes and, creeds, ancient creeds of the church. And if you worship that way, that's true worship. And then others say, no, that's not true worship. True worship is when you got haze, you got drums, you got guitars, you got loud music, and you got preachers in jeans, right? That's real worship. And so oftentimes we get sidetracked on what real worship is all about. And believe it or not, it has nothing to do with a style of worship. You can worship in a million different styles. You can. So that's not what is at the heart of worship. Some people get sidetracked on worship because they focus on time and location. So worship happens at 10:45 in the FLC of Beach United Methodist Church. And that's what we think worship is. It's a time and it's a place. And yet the reality is worship, the heart of worship, is far more than that. It can happen at any time and in any place. And then some people get sidetracked on the issue of what do we wear? And if you've been at beach long enough, you can see everything from, full suits and dresses all the way down to jeans, shorts, and sometimes even bathing suits at beach if it's in the summer. And so we don't get caught up in what you wear, because what you wear is not at the heart of worship. It has far more to do with what you bring in your heart than it does with what you have, what you're wearing. So what I want to do is I want to help us to see in one verse what the Apostle Paul said is the truth about true and proper worship. And it's in Romans chapter 12, verse 1. Here's what it says. Paul writes, "Therefore I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as living sacrifices, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship." Now, the Message translation of that, I think, gets even more at the heart of what true worship is. Here's what the Message says, the same verse. "So here's what I want you to do, God helping you. Take your everyday, ordinary life, your sleeping, eating, going to work, and walking around life, and place it before God as an offering." Worship. Let me give you a few truths that this passage tells us today about worship. First of all, it says that worship is not obligation, but celebration. Worship is not an obligation, but it's celebration. And you know why Paul can say that? In view of God's mercy. That's the foundation for worship. Paul says, we are now in a new day. It used to be if you were a follower of God as a Jew, you would bring a sacrifice, a grain offering, an animal offering, and you would lay it down on the altar to atone for your sins. And so that's what you would bring. And so Paul says it's a new day because it's in view of God's mercy now. Jesus came into the world, God in the flesh. He lived the perfect life and he died in your place and in mine. And he opened the doors forever and ever for you and me to have a right relationship with God if we would receive him into our heart and into our life. So Paul said it's a new day. No longer is worship about an obligation. It's a celebration. It's a full-on party. And so worship is much more like spending time with the love of your life than it is going to the grocery store and getting items on a list or going to a board meeting. And sometimes we enter into worship as if it's kind of like a to-do that we check off. This is our opportunity to come together and to celebrate the goodness of God. We don't come to impress God. We come to express our love for him as the one who first loved us. So to see, how do you express your love for the one who literally took on your terminal illness, because that's what your sin was. Your sin is a terminal illness. You are going to die spiritually and eternally because of the power of sin in your life and in mine. And Jesus came and provided through his death and resurrection the cure. How do you express love for someone that took away your terminal illness and gave you your life back? How do you express your love for the one who came and lived the perfect life and yet laid down his perfect life on the cross for you and for me, for our sins? He took your place and my place on the cross. He died so that we could live. How do you express your love to someone who takes your place on the cross? It's an all-out party. It's a full-on celebration. That's what worship is called to be. Not an obligation, not a to-do. It is a celebration. All right, so then he goes on. Worship is not only not an obligation, but a celebration. Worship is not an event, but it's a lifestyle. Not an event, but a lifestyle. And that's when Paul says, in view of God's mercy, offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing unto him. So here's the difference. The difference is this. Usually when you come to church, you think about worship as an offering, a portion of a gift. And so what you do, for instance, like when the offering plate comes around, you place your portion in the plate. Paul said, in view of God's mercy, everything's changed about worship. It's no longer about bringing a portion, literally, and I'm going to kill myself doing this because I can't quite balance myself in here. This is what it's like. It's everything. You don't come and bring a token of anything of your life. You come and you bring it all to him. So you see, now worship, according to Paul, is no longer like invite Jesus to your dinner table for 30 seconds before you scarf down your food. And it's not a shout out at 10:45 to Jesus on Sunday mornings anymore. It's everything. You bring it all to him. If Jesus is not Lord of all, he is not Lord at all. He doesn't come to just have a piece of your life. He comes to take over. And Jesus wants all of it. So that means your offering is not just your tithe, but all of your finances. Bring it and surrender it all to Jesus for his honor and for his glory. It means that your parenting ought to be given to God as a sacrifice. That your marriage, you honor God through your marriage. You surrender your job over to Jesus. And Jesus, how can I honor you and express my love for you in what I'm doing here in the workplace? How can I honor you with my attitudes? How can I honor you with my body? How can I honor you with the words that I say? It is far more than just singing a song of praise to Jesus on Sunday morning. It's how do you use your words to be an agent of healing and hope in the hearts and lives of people every day. Worship is more than the song you bring, the song you sing, it's the life you bring. And so what Paul is saying to us here is that worship is not defined as an event in your week. Worship is a lifestyle. We bring it all to Jesus. And then as a result of this truth, I think this is very important for us here today. Corporate worship is not the destination, but the starting line. So we come to worship. It's a response of what you're already doing all week. You're worshiping God through the expression of your life. And then on Sunday or Thursday night, you get to come and do it with a whole bunch of other people. And I don't know how you feel about it, but I want to be here in worship because I get all fired up when I see other people here going after the same things that I'm going after, that I want for my life. I'm not alone in this journey. And that's why it's so important for you to be here on Sunday mornings. This should be Number one priority, unless you're on your deathbed. Seriously. This is it, corporate worship. But it's not the destination. It's not the end all, right? It's the starting line. It's the launch pad for the rest of the week of worship. So it's like you're coming up to the starting line when you come into worship today. And as you leave this place, you're moving out into the world to fully express your love for the one who first loved you. That's worship. That's why we put over the doorways as you leave, released for God's glory, because this is just the beginning of worshiping God. And then we move into the world in order to serve him. So today, we're going to practice this truth that worship is not just what happens here. Today, we're going to end the service early. How about that for a change? I'm going to let you have that one today because we got something good to do. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to challenge you not to finish worship now, but to keep worshiping. And here's how you're going to keep worshiping. We're going to invite you and challenge you to continue your worship at Publix. All right? Here's what we're going to do. We've been planning this for several weeks now. And the reason why we're just surprising you with this today is that other churches that have tried this have found out that when they tell their people what they're getting ready to do, they don't show up. Figure that one out. You know, it's like we are creatures of our habits and our rituals and our routines. And so, you know, if you're not getting like the full sermon and all the music and your worship notes, it's like you've just gotten gypped or something. So, but today, what we want to do is really practice what we preach. You cannot hear about being a servant church for 5 weeks and turn your back on an opportunity to serve those in need. Now, you might leave and go to breakfast, and that's fine if you do. You know, we're a place of grace, and this is not about judgment. But I'm going to tell you, I want to challenge you to take this on. You see, we're partners with an organization called BEAM. Beaches Emergency Assistance Ministry. And part of what they do is they provide food assistance for people who just can't make it to the end of the month on their checks, you know, and how they're trying to provide for their families. Last year, Beam provided over 19,000 people with food assistance. And over the last 2 years, the number of people needing food assistance has gone up 34%. And so their last big drive for food was in May of this past year. And this is the time of the year that their shelves are almost completely empty over at the warehouse. So we decided that ought not to be. So we as a church, in just a few hours' time today, are going to do an epic, historic food drive. Within 2 hours, we're going to fill the shelves of Beaches Emergency Assistance Ministry for the needs of people in this neighborhood. So here's what we're going to do. What we're going to do is Ryan's going to come up here and he's going to give you some instructions about the logistics of it. But basically, you're going to go and as a church, we're going to go to area Publixes and we're going to provide for the needs of families in this area with food. And so what I want you to do is remember this, just a couple of things I want to remind you of. Before you go, pick up your children, okay? And here's why. The children are doing the same thing. And so if you think you're going to get out of this as a parent, think again. Because the number one checkoff on your child's list is asked to be taken to Publix. So you look your child in the face and tell them you can't go grocery shopping for hungry people and see how that flies. Okay, so get your children first. And also, if you have any specific personal needs, like you cannot at all physically get to Publix to do that, please see me at the end of the service, and I'll talk to you about that. But Ryan, come up here. Ryan Sweat, Servant Church Coordinator.
All right. Okay, we got 3 locations. There are 3 Publixes. There's one in Marsh Landing. So if you live in that area, that's the one you're going to go to. There's one in Jack's Beach, right over here. If you live, if that's on your way home or if that's in your area, you're going to go to that one. And then we have the one over in Atlantic Beach on Atlantic Boulevard. So you have 3 options. We would like you to go to the one closest to your home or on your way home so that we don't just flood one place and make them go crazy and lose all the food. So we have U-Hauls at every single one. All right, they're going to be out in the front. The back is going to be open. We got a few beach volunteers there to help you with all your food. You are going to go in. You are going to get food. You are going to come out. You are going to put food into truck. Okay? All right, so there's people in the back. There's ushers in the back. They have lists. They got the addresses. They got a map. They got the list of everything you need that Beam needs bought for them. Buy as much or as little as you want, but please challenge yourself. Please give out of the abundance and the overflow. Don't just be like, okay, I'll buy a box of mac and cheese for 99 cents and go buy a $40 lunch. That's crap. So we're not going to do that. So you're going to go and you're going to buy lots of food because I'm not going to show up to Beam Warehouse with a bunch of U-Hauls that are a quarter full and be like, open those trucks. Oh, okay, there's like 3 things in there. So we are going to buy a lot. So they are going to be gone by 12:15. So you need to go do it now. Now, not later, now. So yeah, get up, go. 12:15 is when they are gonna be leaving and closing up and leaving. So go, invite friends to go out on your way home. If you want to text somebody, tell them to go. Y'all go, get up, go, leave. We love you. Go. Hello. Hey, one more thing, sorry. Hey, we have a bus for people who don't have transportation. It is out in the loop, and we are meeting at the warehouse on 1110 Shetter Avenue, and we are gonna load all the food into the warehouse. So we need about 50 or 60 people to come afterwards to the warehouse. Thank you, we love you, bye.